Hi, all. My name's Akhil from Our Mortgage Broker. I hope you're doing very well. Today I'm joined by Andrew Roberts, who I've met at a London property networking event, Baker Street Property Meet, probably about over a year ago now. Andrew, thank you for joining me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. So Andrew, as I said, I've known for just over a year now. We met at a property networking event. The one in mind is the Baker Street Property Meet, which is held in London. Andrew is a great guy, very well networked and very renowned in the property industry, especially in and around London and the home counties in particularly. Andrew, I won't take your thunder away. Tell us some more about you, what you do in your time as well.
Well, I started in property back in 2005. Mm-hmm. But to take it back a little bit further, I actually started in property at the age of 3 because that was my father's trade. So I grew up on sites and I actually learned how buildings went together, how they were repaired and how they were taken apart. I was told then, use this, not that. And as a result, I became a chartered accountant.
Right.
And I worked in a bank at a very senior level. And then got headhunted from a bank to a law firm. And in the law firm, I was working with the board of directors and I set up the country's largest firm of conveyancers. And I was also instrumental working with Land Registry for creating the Land Reg Online. So all of that goes back to the 90s. In 2000, I established my own commercial businesses and got fed up of paying rent on the business. So I went, let's buy the office. So I bought my own offices and that was how I effectively started getting into property, was acquiring that. Continued trading, bumped into the FD from the law firm at an auction, happened to mention there was a thing called property networking. From there, I actually started to do a little bit of networking about 6-7 years ago in that sector and realized I actually knew a lot more than a lot of people out there. So I started sharing my knowledge and set up a network meet myself called the Great Property Meet. And that's in Rugby. We meet on the 3rd month of every month. So that's a sort of helicopter view of who I am and skills and background.
Wow, so you've been there, done it since the age of 3 and you're still going?
Yeah. And gone grey with it.
That's all good. Sign of wisdom, sign of experience. Absolutely. I call it. So I know that you're quite heavily in property as an investor. Could you just share with us the types of property that you're currently investing in and whether it's commercial and residential or whether you've got a bias into one particular area of property?
Sure. Well, I have a portfolio which is a mix of commercial and residential. The residential is more legacy stuff and it sort of balances out. I always say to people, have a bit of a sun hat and an umbrella approach to everything you do. So I've got trading businesses and I've got investment businesses. And the reason for having a diversification between residential and commercial is sometimes in an economic cycle, one will outperform the other. Commercial is my bias though. Commercial is what I'm actively doing at this moment in time. And to give an example, I mentioned I worked for a bank. I like the bank that much. And on courses you hear about buying your own ATM. I thought, I don't want one ATM. So I went and bought the bank and got a bank of ATMs.
So you bought the bank that you used to work for?
I bought the bank I used to work for, yes.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic.
It's great, isn't it?
It's amazing. So, can I ask what bank that was?
It was actually Nationwide.
Good, okay. And are they still your covenant?
Nationwide.
Are they still your covenant though?
No, they're not. They're not.
So, fair enough.
No.
Perfect.
That's my focus and my passion and my energy is commercial property, and I acquire it between the sort of Midlands down to the southeast, and I've got a portfolio sort of from Nottingham down to Luton. That's the geographic spread.
Okay, good. So talking about, because I know it's quite a hotly contested subject at the moment, whether people should buy commercial property or residential. From my perspective, as a mortgage broker, I want people to buy both. I think they've both got pros, they've both got cons, and depending on where you are in the economic cycle, both have got advantages and disadvantages. From a broker perspective, borrowing from major banks and lenders, it's more expensive at commercial level. However, you've got the advantage of getting rents paid up in quarterly in advances. You don't have to worry about the open market rents. And you usually get a good tenant with a good lease, a long lease on this. So you've got a peace of mind, I would say. And I know a lot of our clients, and no doubt like yourself as commercial landlords, you've probably got the FRI leases in place. Could you tell me more about FRIs and what it actually stands for our viewers?
Yeah, FRI means full repairing and insuring lease. So if, to contrast that to a residential portfolio, the toilet gets blocked, a phone call goes into the landlord to say, my toilet's blocked, can you come out and unblock it? Full repairing and insuring means that the toilet gets blocked, the tenant's responsible for unblocking it, and the tenant is responsible for paying for it. The tenant also is responsible for maintaining and insuring your building and keeping it in good order. So at the end of the tenancy, if they hand it back in a worse condition than you gave it them, you charge them what is termed a dilapidation charge, which is to bring the building back up to standard. Now, that doesn't happen in residential.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It doesn't, because with residential, the buck lies with the landlord. However, with the commercial, the buck lies with the tenant. So it's major. It's heavily advantageous buying in commercial, and I understand the reasons why people are investing in commercial. And I think the other good reason why to invest in commercial, if you are got a portfolio with residential, is more of a blended product range, blended portfolio, and then you get a blended cash flow as well. So a lot of our clients that we speak to, I ask them, why are you investing in property? Is it capital growth? Is it cash flow? Or is it a blend of both? Now, we're going through this pandemic as we speak. Capital growths, are we going to see them going forward? Are we still going to see double-digit growths coming up? I don't know. I doubt it. However, I always believe in cash flow. We're in property for the long term usually. You've been investing in property since the age of 3. You're now 18.
Well, investing since 2005, I got into the sector.
No, I'm only kidding. I'm pulling your leg. No, so property is always a long game, right? You're always going to see growth, but I think in times like this, you need to ensure that you've got good tenants in place, you've got cash flow, and have a range of ranges of property in your portfolio, so you get a blended view. What's your take on that?
No, I totally agree with you on that, and I sort of look at it from one of the things I like with commercial is there's more flexibility with it than there is with residential. It could be a house, a serviced accommodation, or a HMO. Typically, there isn't a lot that you can do. There's also not much in the way of permitted development rights. With commercial, there's a whole raft of permitted development rights where I can add value to those buildings, and hopefully later this year will come in airspace rights, which on commercial buildings will add significant uplift, whereas residential, it will be tougher to get benefits, because structurally on a residential property, they don't have the footings to take the extra load that needs to go up above.
Yeah, so high underpinning and so on.
Exactly. So it will be expensive to do anything in residential to use the airspace, whereas with commercial, they often have flat roofs, and you can create lightweight steel structures to crane on top, just basically sit on top. You obviously need structural engineers to check that out. But yeah, a blended mix. And what I often do, the bank which I bought, what we're doing is converting the uppers to residential. So that gives me a blended commercial residential. And the planning wired through a permitted development right, and it took less than 30 days. I mean, it actually only took 9 days from submitting the application to getting the planners on site, and the planners verbally approved our plans to do it. Unfortunately, Christmas, New Year got in the way, and that created a delay in the paperwork out. But it was less than 30 days from application to actual confirmation. You can't get that in residential. You have full planning permissions, objections from neighbours, all sorts of problems.
Yeah,
Commercial is
no,
so much easier, stress-free.
yeah, no, I like that. So it leads nicely to my question. So I take it your bias is still very much commercial investing going forward. Give us 3 top tips that investors should be looking out for going into commercial. So whether you're a beginner or you are a seasoned investor, what would you say 3 lookout things you need to do go buying commercial property?
Well, you've got to buy in the right areas. So
Yeah,
there's got to be demand for commercial units.
yeah,
The bank which I've bought is in a business improvement district. So money is being ploughed in. It's also the only building that was actually vacant in that district. Therefore, there is demand. And the only reason it was vacant is the bank closed the branch literally before it went on the market. So it only became recently available. So demand is one thing. And if you looked at cost of coffee, they need a footfall of a minimum 25 people pass that door a day. If you
mm,
haven't got that, they won't move in. So it's all about looking at how you can add value to that property or diversify the income stream is the second thing I go for. Because if you're looking at a property going, I'll stick a bog standard commercial tenant in and add no value, you're going to be able to leverage your position. So with bank which we've acquired, that one there, we identified that the upper floors were not being utilised.
mm,
From commercial agents in the area, they said, you're not going to get a very good rent. You'll probably get a square foot. Therefore, converting it to residential, it has £40 a square foot. That is an uplift. So I'm just diversifying it, and I've got a commercial agreement, an FRI lease
yeah.
with an organisation that will take the residential off me. So it is technically commercial, although it's residential in substance. And the third one is have more than one plan for every property that you do. An A, B, C, D, E exit. Work out in the first instance who will occupy that property. With this particular property, there are loads of solicitors and accountants in the neighbouring buildings. Therefore, it lends itself to somebody who would complement that sector.
Yeah.
Alternatively, it could complement via retail use, hairdressing, tattoo parlour, or similar, because it would all be businesses that need physical presence. If it was a box shifting organisation, I wouldn't be too interested in that as a. And the final thing I would look at is make sure you get a damn good covenant off your tenants. By that, with residential, your tenant comes in and they generally don't have assets. My tenants come in and they generally own their own home. I get them to
Yeah.
give a personal guarantee and put so that skin game
Yeah.
so that I'm protected. And that covenant then enhances the valuation when it comes to a mortgage lender.
No, that's perfect. And I think you've hit so many major nails on the heads there. And that's exactly what our lenders look for as well. They want to ensure that you've got a passing trade, foot flow going past the high street. Is it in a desirable location? Location. I mean, that's the first thing.
Totally.
And then it's about the repurposing of the property. So have you got opportunity to value add, raise another level, do a conversion, add a flat at the back, add another flat above? And yes, you are right. Who is the covenant? I.e., who is the tenant? Are they a blue chip brand? Are they a brand that you know of? Or if it is just a father and son wanting to open a grocery store or an off license,
Yeah.
how secure are they? What is their personal balance sheet look like? Are they willing to give a personal guarantee and so on? So you've hit the nail on the head there. And I think that's the questions that our lenders ask. So for landlords looking for those, then you will get the lending that you require.
Yeah, well, something I do as an accountant, just as a spin-off and a side thing, is how many hours do they have to work in the day to actually pay my rent before they can start cashing their own? Or how many days in the month is it before they've covered the rent?
Right.
And that, if you reverse engineer their business and work out how many customers they need through the door, if it's a coffee shop, how many cups of coffee do you need to sell? And it's feasible that you will get that many number of customers through the door in the day. It's a very smart way of thinking about it and very different. Not many people do that.
No, that's key. I like that. I always like that. And you've hit the nail on the head once again. I think reversing the engineering is very much key. And it's what the lender wants. It's what the landlord wants. And ultimately, you want a good tenant that's going to be there for the long term. And you basically have no issues with going forward. So if you do the hard work up front, it will pay you and you will have a good covenant going forward. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I hope all our viewers have got some information and background about Andrew, his property meet, which he holds in Rugby, the Great Property Meet. They are going to be going virtual next week. Andrew does have his own YouTube channel as well. So please log on to Andrew's YouTube channel called Great Property Meet, where he's got some amazing videos with other speakers on his channel, and you can get more information about his property meet. Thank you, Andrew, and we look forward to seeing you again, sir.
Akhil, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed sharing with you.
You're welcome. Speak soon.
Will do.